Part 2.
Now, I want to talk about CBT. I mean, I've kind of already brought it up, to be honest. CBT works on, talks about a cycle of thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations. So anger is a really good example.
It is.
When something triggers you, you think something, feel something, you get anger coursing through your body, and then you get angry.
Yep. Generally, you don't think anything. It's a reaction to self-defense, which you used to do. And until you change your beliefs about what it is you need to do and why you're doing it, anger will not go away. I mean, yes, obviously it pays you in the interim time to, as you say, count to 10 or actually consider, hang on, what I normally do in situations like that, though it doesn't happen very often, I just walk away. I'm not prepared to argue, I'm not prepared to get involved in things which are... Seeing kids beat stuff up, smash things around, that really annoys me, and so I have to turn around and walk away.
Right. Maybe what we're talking about there, do you think there are quite large stores of anger that people are holding?
Yes,
generally.
Most of it's fear.
Oh, it's fear, right.
Well, I have the idea that all of our behaviours come from one of two places. They either come from love or they come from fear.
Oh, that's the thing, yeah, and people say make a choice, don't they?
Generally,
fear or love.
I mean, we're sitting here as a result of love. We're certainly not sitting here as a result of fear.
Right.
But everything we do, I walk away from conflict. That's fear. That's making me walk away because I'm afraid of what I might do if I don't.
Yeah, so it's interesting that things like xenophobia, you never quite twig that it's the phobia part.
Yeah, fear.
Xenophobia, people will say, people who hate foreigners.
Yes.
Because they're afraid of them, essentially.
The phobia it's a fear of rather than... And so, a lot of our lives, we are afraid. We're afraid that something will come along and bugger it up or change our life, which we're really enjoying. Because, as I said, the unconscious mind's job is to protect us. And it hasn't learned how to do it in a different way. And NLP is quite into hypnosis to teach the unconscious mind this is not the best way of doing it.
And hypnosis has been stigmatised or sort of stereotyped by, say, Paul McKenna, isn't
That's
it?
the problem.
It's not that.
No, it isn't.
I've had hypnotherapy. You're in it. It's a really interesting sweet spot where you're still aware where you are.
Absolutely.
But you're more, suggestible, might make people think, oh God, it can make you do anything. But it's not that.
Well,
you're more open.
You're more open to possibilities.
Yeah.
What stops us doing that? The conscious mind gets in the way, and our old behaviours and habits stop us doing certain
all the
things.
Filters come in.
And the things might be useful to us, but we can't allow that to happen. I'm a great believer in hypnosis. I used to do it, not for a job, but over a period of time. And that can help people get over difficulties, which... a friend of mine had a crunched up knee. She was quite heavy, and they would not operate until she lost a certain weight. But in the meantime, it hurt her like hell. So she went to a pain therapist, and she had a mantra in her head, and she said it doesn't hurt anymore.
She had a what in her head?
A mantra, a thing she had to go through.
Right.
Yeah. And she said, it doesn't fix the knee, but it doesn't hurt me until I lose weight, and then they will fix it properly.
Oh, I see.
Hypnosis is very, very powerful, done correctly.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just to reiterate, it's not Paul McKenna, it's not like you don't know what's going on and
No.
You'll think tomato ketchup is shampoo. It's not that, or an onion is an apple, or whatever it is.
No. Well, I was on an NLP course, and the guy had a person come up to the stage, choose to come up to the stage, and he took away the number 7 in accounting. And so he said, after he'd done this, a very simple process, he would say, well, can you count your fingers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. And she looked at her thumb, couldn't process it, because she knew she'd counted to 10, but she still had her thumb left over.
Oh yeah, I wasn't saying that the Paul McKenna stuff isn't true.
It is true.
I'm just saying that most people, you shouldn't just think of hypnosis
I think
as being completely out of it.
No,
That's
I
all
think
I'm
Paul
saying.
McKenna has done nobody any good. I would never go for anything that he's doing. I think it trivialises a very, very powerful tool.
Things like smoking. I mean, smoking is such a good example because I am an ex-smoker.
Yeah.
And you know that it's not doing any good, and you know that it doesn't make you calm. It just relieves withdrawal symptoms.
Yes.
First thing in the morning.
That's
or whatever.
right. Yes. We all know better than we do.
Yeah. So hypnosis is a good thing because I don't know, for hypnosis to work, do you have to fundamentally believe it?
No, you just have to do what you're told.
Oh, okay. So take a person who smoked.
Yes.
And they genuinely didn't want to stop. Could a hypnotist make them stop?
Make them? No. Give them the choice of stopping? Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because that re-educates the unconscious mind that this is not a good thing for the body. And the unconscious mind is trying to protect us. And so once the unconscious mind is aware of the fact that smoking is not a good idea, then you will lose that, because the drive comes not from the conscious. The conscious mind is saying, no, I don't want to smoke, I don't want to smoke. Unfortunately, the unconscious mind is saying, yes, you do, this is good for you. And until you change that behaviour, virtually impossible to stop.
Wow, interesting. Okay. Blimey, we're on page 2. I have an idea that change is, it's not necessarily easy, but it's simple. I make a distinction between simple and easy.
Oh yeah, there is a big difference.
So if you don't mind personalising a little bit here.
Okay.
You had a time when you were very unhappy, and I think you said you would even sometimes break down when you're on the train going back from work. Again, I think you said earlier there wasn't any sort of epiphany moment, but there must have been a moment where you reached a point where you said, this has got to stop.
Oh yes.
So can you remember anything about that?
Yes, I would walk along a lane going down to the train in the morning, and I would cry walking down the lane saying, right, this isn't fair. My marriage was not ideal. People at work didn't like me. I didn't like me. I felt that society had cheated me.
Cheat, that's a good way to put it, actually.
And this isn't fair, and it shouldn't be like this. And I was very unhappy about just about everything. And then, I don't know whether I must have felt it at the time, but putting it into words now, I thought, I'm worth more than this. I'm not prepared to live my life like this. How do I change my life? How do I change the world? Because we create our world. So if I want life to be different, I have to change. I have to change what I think, what I believe, what I do, what I say, and maybe if I want to lose weight, what I eat. And change is difficult because when you change, you lose something. You lose whatever it is you were getting from behaving the way you do. And also the future is reasonably uncertain. So we're afraid, because we're afraid of losing, we're also afraid of the uncertainty of the future. Again, it comes into fear. And you have, if you want to change, you have to want to change all the time, every day, every minute. You want to change, and then the realization that yes, you can change. Change is possible, and you need to persuade yourself or believe deep down that change is possible. And then you need the process to be able to do that, to be able to change. For me, NLP was the process of change. Because I'd done the others, yes, I'm not prepared to live the rest of my life like this. I want to be different. And, over a period of time, I did. And NLP was really the tool by which it enabled that. Well, I also did Transactional Analysis, which is also a very interesting story.
Oh, yes, we'll get to that.
You got today down there.
Yes, I have, yeah. Games people play.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not particularly religious, but I love salvation lies within. I love that quote.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we're making up everything in our heads. And that covers, when I've written my book on spirituality, we're still making up everything. And once you really get that we're making up everything, and that is under your control, then you stand a fighting chance of changing what you're doing if you're unhappy or minor things in your life you want to change. Once you realise that you're creating everything in your life, and you can create it differently, then life takes on a whole different aspect.
Yeah. It's that feeling of sudden freedom, isn't it?
Yes.
Because I don't know if we're completely free, but particularly if you're in the West and you've got decent set of skills and if you think about most of the world, I mean, we are amazingly free.
Oh, of course we are.
Doesn't mean we still can't be pissed off with the government.
No, because the status quo is, we want to change it. It doesn't matter what the status quo is, we want to change it.
Right.
The fact that it will change, the status quo is only good for today. Tomorrow it might be different.
An NLP exercise, I think it was in your book, but I've read it in another book as well. Third-party view.
Yes.
When you look at someone else's life, you tend to be able to, this is why, going to a life coach, therapist, counsellor, whatever, it is quite good because when you look at someone else's life, you can see what they need to be doing. Even if they divulge most of the kind of drama that's going on in their life.
Yeah.
I think that there's loads of unnecessary drama going on in everyone's head.
Yes.
And so in NLP, there's a thing where you can take a third-party view. Do you actually try and visualize yourself, or is it just in your mind? Or?
Well, there's 3 states. You can be looking out and see what you've done in your own eyes. I'm looking out there, and I'm remembering what I did when I was, 25 in this set of circumstances, and I'm seeing what I saw then. I can't remember the detail now. Or you can be sitting on the side watching what you're doing.
I think that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yes, you can sit on the side and watching what you're doing. That's the second position. Or you can be in third position, which is sitting over the top and watching what you're doing and the effect that it has on someone else.
Like an aerial view almost.
Like an aerial view. So
see.
There's 3 positions that you can take. If you want to change, the third or the second position is the best, because if you keep on seeing it through your own eyes, it isn't going to change.
Oh, I see, yes.
It's only by looking at it from, as you said, from the second position, looking at watching yourself doing it and being critical and thinking, that wasn't a very clever thing to do. Why did I do that?
Yeah.
What did I believe when I did that?
And maybe seeing how nonsensical your behaviour is as well.
Yes.
Not even reacting badly, but just creating all these stories. We've mentioned that a couple of times. We should get onto that. This thing that everyone does. This was a big revelation to me. I was listening to a podcast about 15 years ago. We were saying that we all create these stories, these intricate stories.
Yes, we create narratives about what happens.
Absolutely, because people
then we live in them or believe them.
Yeah, because people love stories. We've always loved stories.
The thing is, if in my chapter in meaning, it's quite significant actually. There's an event. There may be consequences, and there is meaning, and we create the meaning. And to do that, we make a story out of it, or a narrative, or that's because diddy, and he wasn't thinking, or I was thinking, and we're away with the story. And then once we've created the story and given ourselves a meaning, that's it. It's very difficult to change that until you realise that you've actually just created it and you can create something else.
But it is amazing how many steps forward in the story we just make up. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, we're like I've said, we're making it all up.
Yeah, as we go along, yeah. You had an example, someone hadn't called you. Remember that?
Yes, I remember that.
That's a classic example, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
What were you doing then?
You've made a friend with somebody. In fact, I actually have. I'm waiting for a call from a friend that I met last Monday. So far, he hasn't come back to me, and he was going to send me his email. But I'm thinking now, doesn't he like me? Was he pretending to like me? Was he flattering me? Because he said that he liked my book, but does he really like my book? Bugger didn't buy it. Maybe he tried to ring, but he got the number wrong. No, he's not. He's too bright for that. So we make a thing out of it. It may be that his mother's died and he couldn't give a shit that he was going to contact me. We make everything about us. And generally what happens in the world around us has nothing to do with us. We want to add ourselves into it as though it was significant. Because naturally the world needs me in it, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah. That's why it's good to look at the stars, isn't it? Or watch those videos of showing you how many million universes there are.
Yes, we are significant. We're very significant. But we're not the middle of the world. We're not the centre of the world. Unless you're the king, but I bet even he has his dull moment.
Going back to Darren Brown, I think he did a TED talk. He said we worry less what people think of us if we realise how seldom they actually do.
Oh yes,
that kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely.
I love
and don't forget that when a friend of mine, she's very good at mind reading. She knows that somebody, sitting opposite or just along there having her lunch, she can see my dress and she knows what sort of a woman I am. She's continually saying what other people are thinking about it. But she has no idea what other people are thinking. She is creating those words because that's what she thinks about herself.
Oh, I see. So the narrative you create reflects
back on you. It's you that's thinking what this person is thinking about you. Well, you can't read their mind. So if you've got words to describe what they're thinking, they're words that you're thinking about yourself.
So if you believe you're unlikable, you're more likely to think the person doesn't like you.
Which is where, when I was, as I say, going through my rough patch, I didn't like me, and I assumed that everybody else didn't like me.
Oh, interesting.
I think at the time they probably didn't, but that's another story.
Yeah, I mean, the reality might coincide.
Yeah.
But that's almost not the point, is it?
No. The point is that whenever you think somebody is thinking about you, those words and those thoughts are coming from you about yourself, which may be acceptable or may not.
The other thing, I did a series on the Art of Happiness, the Dalai Lama book.
Right.
It's a good book because you had Dalai Lama and you had a Western, I think he was a psychotherapist.
Yeah.
So you had sort of West meets East almost. And at some point in the book, bear in mind the Dalai Lama spends how many hours a day in contemplation or meditation or whatever.
Absolutely.
Someone said, so do you understand human behaviour? And the Dalai Lama just burst out laughing. That's a good one, Also, factor in as well that we're never really quite going to understand what people are doing anyway, what their motives are.
Well, no, we don't know their motives.
So if you add that to the stew as well, you're even less likely to know. So
generally you don't even know your own motives, let alone somebody else's.
That's it, yeah. So that's an even more motivation to not create stories.
That's right. But we have to create stories in order to add meaning to events.
Okay.
There's an event, there is possible consequences, and there is meaning, and we have to create a story around that meaning. We have to give it a meaning. I mean, you can say simply, that means that I'll need to spend 6 weeks in hospital, or that means that, and that's fine. But then you can say, that means that my wife won't be around to take the kids. I won't be around to take the kids to school, and that means that. And you can create a whole scenario which may or may not be true.
In the example of your friend not calling, isn't it better just to do nothing?
Yes.
In that case, yeah.
Because in the bottom line is there's bugger all you can do about it.
Yeah.
But don't beat yourself up because they haven't called you. They've got a perfectly valid reason why they haven't called you, and you don't know what it is. And that's okay. Just live in not knowing.
Yeah, it's all right not to know. Yeah, you're right.
After a fortnight, you might tend to give them a text saying what happened.
Yeah, after a while, you're going to want to know what the truth is, I think.
Well, yes, it's very difficult to cope with non-closure. If you've ever been dumped by a partner and you don't know why, that's difficult to take.
Well, this is why if you go into dark circumstances like the Southport thing we've just seen and everything, when you hear that when children have died and stuff, the parents, it's so important for them to know.
It's important.
So they'll even want to be in court to hear the grisly details.
Some sort of closure.
Yeah, because it's closure.
Yes, it's very difficult. And when people are lost at sea, that's difficult.
Yeah. Right, let's talk about roles. So playing roles. Marlon Brando is someone pretty flawed character, but I always found him very compelling. Yeah. He said in an interview that we're all actors. So this woman said to him, do you think you're the best actor in the world? And he said, no, my dog's the best actor in the world because when he wants something, he starts being nice to me. Or a cat. Cat's probably a better example.
Particularly cats. Dogs are nice to you all the time. Cats aren't necessarily.
Yeah. Do you think people tend to let their roles define them? Can you ever be completely natural? I feel like in this situation, I'm being fairly natural, but I'm still turning it up a little bit.
You're playing a role.
I'm playing a role a little bit.
And so am I.
Yeah.
But what you're getting is me, because I've reached the stage when I don't give a what other people think, within reason. I dress the way I dress because I want to. This is what I want to present.
You look all right.
Exactly, I look all right. I'm not fancy. I don't have a fancy coat on. But Wednesday morning, I will wear a more attractive jacket, and I might even wear black shoes. So it does matter what other people think, but not to the degree that I live my life around it.
Yeah, that's it. But it doesn't mean it's necessarily fake. So.
No, it's not.
I am trying to be good for this podcast because it's a recording, it's going to go out in the world.
Yes.
But I'm pretty comfortable I'm being myself.
Of course you are,
I'm just being just next...
Yes, but don't forget we're not a single personality, we are multiple personalities.
Oh, right.
I see ourselves as the centre. If you imagine again a bicycle wheel with spokes, we're at the centre. Your brain, your head, you as you are in this world is at the middle. And you are projecting yourself along a stationary bicycle along between these spokes, that section. And that is the section that you use to respond to your mother or behave towards your mother. That's the section you use to behave at work. this is the section you believe you use to behave to your partner. So we are multiple personalities, and whenever we come into that set of circumstances, we will then change. And we don't change ourselves because we're at the middle. We are all of these personalities.
We're just a sort of extension, if you like.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, well, you are always you. You're just a different you. You know, when you are at work doing your work job, you are a different you. You are you, but it's different. People have the idea that, you know, the authentic you, it's always authentic, but it's just a different way. You know, I have the idea between male and female, we are equal in terms of value and significance, but we're not the same.
I would say one thing, though. I think the level by which you have to act, let's say, in inverted commas, I think it does affect you. Because if you're doing a job that's kind of got nothing to do with you fundamentally, and you're completely playing a role, I think that will eat away at you over time.
Well, I mean, I've played many roles in my life, and for me, I never was that role. I would play that role because that was what was expected of me, and I needed to succeed at it. And I played the role somewhere between 5 and 7 years, because in that time you can gain knowledge, you can gain skill, and you can gain experience. By the time you've done that in a role for about 5 years, you're not going to go much further. And every Christmas, because I used to get a fortnight off at Christmas, I would stop and think, okay, what am I going to do this year? Am I going to carry on doing how am I different this Christmas than I was last Christmas? How do I see the world now, and in what way is it different? And do I want to carry on doing this role? Because every time you get up and go to work in the morning, you're choosing to go to work. You know?
Yeah, you're giving a certain amount of yourself as well.
Yes, of course. And roles are very, very comforting because you can drop into a role and it isn't a great deal of work. It's when you get a new role, a new job, that tensions start to come up. How can I do this? Am I good enough for this? You know, what will my boss think of me? Dirty, and so on. So it's new roles that are difficult, but old roles are generally fairly. And if you don't like the role you're playing, change it.
But we fall into what you were saying earlier, this comfort thing, isn't it?
Of course.
Because it's
easy.
It's just easier, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got enough on my mind with my daughter playing up these days, and I can't be bothered to change my job now because, you know, I've got enough on my mind. Fine, that's good enough reason.
Yeah, but it's your choice.
But it's your choice.
So I always thought being an actor would be really interesting because, say you're playing a stuntman or a CIA agent, for a few months you get to intensely learn almost everything about that world.
That's right.
And then you can step away. And you get paid, obviously, as well.
You get paid serious amounts of money.
Yeah,
there was a program on TV which was sort of fake it till you make it. And they would take somebody who had not done this, and he was a big bloke, and they taught him to be a transvestite in a club. Because up to then he would have looked at queers and said, you know, this is... but after a period of time of being with gay people and queers, or whatever word is currently in vogue, he completely changed. I mean, not to say that he continued as a gay dancer, but his world completely changed, and he understood so much more than he had before. And there was a lot of instances of people who were taught how to do this. You know, what do I need to do to be a whatever they've chosen? It was very interesting how people can change, given the appropriate skill and training and so on. They can take up a completely different role.
Yeah, and there's that line, isn't it? Walk a mile in someone's shoes.
That's it.
Yeah. If it helps you understand, then it must be good. You discussed 12 Angry Men.
Yes.
Can you remember what the content was? That's one of my favourite films.
I can't remember.
I think it was about beliefs, wasn't it?
It's the story of the jurors in the jury room probably in the 30s or 50s America, which was very racist.
That film? Oh, that was 50s.
50s, was it? Yeah, it was still very racist.
Yeah.
And...
it was a Mexican kid, I remember.
Yeah. One person didn't think he was guilty, and everybody else did, because they'd not thought about it. They hadn't added two and two together. They'd made themselves a story. He's not a white American, therefore he's guilty.
Yeah, he's Mexican, he comes from a poor area, put the two together.
He wouldn't be here if he wasn't guilty.
That's it. That's the other thing, yeah.
Sort of approach.
Oh, sorry, I should have prefaced it. You said belief is the most powerful force on earth, which I would agree.
It is, because belief, it's, what is it? Thought, word, and deed.
Yeah.
Belief is thought. That's where everything starts. You need to believe you can dig the channel tunnel. You need to believe that we can make aeroplanes. You need to believe that we can make rockets go into the moon. Belief comes first.
Yeah.
If you don't have a belief, you ain't going to do it.
In this case, so basically there's 12 men, 11 are just absolutely sure he's guilty. One of them wants to go to a baseball game. He's like, oh, can we just get this over with?
Yes, exactly.
And Henry Fonda actually says, I'm not sure if he's guilty, but we owe him an hour's discussion. And gradually, I think in the end, well, obviously they're all...
And Henry Fonda, of course, was ostracised by all the others because he thought differently, and it's very difficult. But yes, belief is the key to everything.
Yeah.
Your own internal beliefs about yourself, and if you want to do things, you've got to believe that you can do it.
Yeah. And talking about change, have you seen a film called Hidden Figures, or have you heard of it?
No.
It was 3 black women who worked for NASA in the 60s.
Right, yes.
And the one thing I remember from that film, so Kevin Costner was the boss, and one of the ladies is really mathematically almost like a genius.
Yes.
And she's working with all white people, and they don't want to use the same bathroom as her, because they've all got the belief, inverted commas, that she's not clean.
That's right.
Black people are dirty. Anyway, Kevin Costner, I can't remember why, but the boss decides, I'm not going to make her walk, because there's a bit in this film where you see her walking to the other toilet, and he says, right, you're all going to use the same toilet, and all these white women grumble. They use the toilet once, she's in the toilet, they realise she's basically the same, she's not any less clean.
Yeah.
But what I got from that is that you can change a belief so quickly. If it's genuine, if the belief isn't genuine...
The belief is genuine.
The new reality is genuine, that she's the same in terms of cleanliness.
The belief is genuine, but that's prejudice. We're all prejudiced about something or other.
Yeah.
But knowledge can oust a belief that is not useful.
Yeah, and it can happen very quickly. This is my point.
Yes, it can.
Yeah.
Yes, you suddenly realise that, as you say, this woman is actually just one of us, just that her skin happens to be a different colour. But she's also pretty bright and pretty competent and capable, and all black. I mean, one of the great things I think in terms of racism was having black players playing in the football league.
American football?
No, in England.
Oh, yeah.
Because, there was a time when virtually no black people, Indian or from the West Indies or African, would ever play football in England. And then there was a guy for Notts Forest.
Cyril Regis was West Brom, I think.
Yeah. Somebody played for Notts Forest. And when you've got this black person whom you don't like for whatever reason, starts to score goals.
Yeah, that's the other thing, yeah.
Then you begin to think, well, actually, maybe they're not that bad after all.
Yeah.
And that's, because you've suddenly had your awareness opened up. The prejudices, which you believe because your father believed it and he's told you that.
Yeah.
So you got your belief from no obvious good reason.
And you haven't questioned it, it's just passed on.
It's just passed on because, somebody who's always voted Labour will, chances are, not so much these days, but certainly in the past.
Yeah.
Once a Labour voter, always a Labour voter for the family, or Conservative or whatever. And it wasn't really that the racism in this country started to go back when football players began to score goals. And that changed the way the crowd looked at black people. It's not the only thing.
Right, but
it's significant.
But as a reason, that's not really morally a great reason, just because they're successful. Are you saying that after that you realise...
Yes, that this person actually, they may be black, but my God, they can play football. And that becomes their chief outline about them is not the fact that they're black, but the fact that they can play football.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Suddenly the shift is not on their colour, but in America at the moment there's a huge amount of race baiting, that they wouldn't elect a black woman. Well, actually she was never black Kamala was never black in the first place.
No, she changed from Indian American to American.
She changed her accent according to who she was
African
talking
American.
to. I mean, talk about authentic, no.
Yeah.
But she wasn't not elected because she's black or because she's a woman. She wasn't elected because she's useless. And it was patently obvious she was useless.
Yeah. I mean, she wasn't elected.
No, she wasn't
for that
elected
reason.
because she's useless, not because she's black or Indian or a woman.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
But that party is now insisting that, everybody else is racist or sexist.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
I've just got a funny example of things being passed on. Again, I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about this woman, she used to, when she cooked ham for her family, she used to cut the corners off or something. I don't know what it was. Yeah. Someone said, "Why'd you cut the corners of the ham?" I was like, I don't know, my mum used to do that.
Yes,
she rang her mother and said, "Mum, why'd you cut the corners of the ham?" "Oh, because my mother used to do that." You think like that could be 20 generations. That's just a light-hearted example.
Yeah,
but
no, I mean, that's true. We do things because we were taught to do it as a kid, and nobody's ever suggested maybe we shouldn't, or couldn't, or might not.
That's it, yeah. All right. Communication. So in NLP, I think this is from your book as well, the meaning of your communication is the response you get.
That's very, very significant.
Okay, flesh that one out for us.
The meaning of your communication is the response you get. I.e., when you say something to someone, you may intend it to be funny, you may intend it to be nasty, you may intend it to be all sorts. How it is taken and what it means to the other person will be shown to you in the response they have about it. If they didn't see it as funny, they may well come back at you with anger and frustration. If they saw it as a dig at them, they may you can see them smile inwardly as if to say, yeah, whatever. And if you don't get the response you want, you change your communication. You are 100% responsible for the response you get.
If you made a joke and someone didn't laugh, how do you know if the joke's funny or...
Well, you don't. For them, it wasn't.
So you talk about work context mostly?
Yeah, wherever you are and whatever you're doing.
Oh, okay.
Whenever you're interacting with someone else, then what you get back from them indicates what you said or the way you behaved meant to them. The meaning of what you did, said, is shown by how they respond. Meaning to them. Not the meaning to the rest of the world, but the meaning to them is how they respond to you, or react to you even.
How do you know if that's because it's the way you communicate wasn't good? You don't know.
Well, if you don't get the response you wanted, then what you said isn't useful to you.
Oh, okay.
If you want somebody to say yes, for whatever reason, and they don't, the ploys and the methods and the processes and the words you use to get them to say yes don't work.
Right.
And it's up to you to change those.
Oh, so you're talking about when you need something from someone, let's say.
In any case.
Right.
I mean, most conversations are fairly simple. But if you are in sales, for example, and you want somebody to say yes, and they don't, there may be a plausible reason why they're not going to. You know, you're trying to sell them a car and they want a tractor, in which case you ain't going to get a yes.
Yeah.
But all of the things being equal. But what that does is, what it really means is that you're responsible, 100% responsible for your communication to mean, what have I got there?
So I've written it down. We're 100% responsible for the effectiveness of our communication. Yes.
As opposed to saying, oh, well, he's stupid. Well, no, what you said to him didn't mean to him what it meant to you when you said it. And if you want him to do something for you, then you have to change how you ask them, how you say it.
So, would the NLP give any kind of tips for better communication? I don't know.
Use the words they do.
Oh, yeah, mirroring, Mirroring body language as well, I suppose?
Yes, of course. Another important thing, which you may not have it there, is wherever you come into another person's awareness, you are communicating to them.
Right.
Whether you mean to or not. In other words, the fact that they can see you, if you mean anything at all to them, you are communicating.
Oh, okay.
I'm wearing a jacket now. I'm communicating to other people that I am a responsible, normal, elderly man.
Oh, I see, yes.
If I wore a tracksuit and trainers, then I would be communicating that at my age, I would be a bit of a nutter.
Well, unless you're going running or something. Get away with the tracksuit. You're talking about just walking into a pub.
Yes. Whenever you come into someone else's awareness, you're communicating. And a friend of mine runs a band, and he says, I'm always telling my band members that you can't just walk up onto the stage wearing anything you choose. If you want to be in a band, what you wear is as significant as what you're singing. You're creating an image. Whether you want to or not is irrelevant. You are creating an image. When you come into someone else's awareness, you're communicating to them. And it's so easy to forget that.
I mentioned before we started recording that film Being There with Peter Sellers.
Yes.
Because I'm going to be on a podcast in a couple of weeks talking about it. It's so interesting. I won't go into it now, but he's essentially someone who doesn't have any past or he's like a blank slate.
Yes.
And people project everything onto him.
Absolutely.
But because he's dressed quite well, that makes it, and he speaks well as well.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's I don't dress up that smartly, but in certain circumstances I would wear nicer clothes than in others. I come into Wetherspoons, and if I'm not careful, I'm very much an outsider, and I want to try and fit in with the ordinary people here. Most people in here aren't wearing jackets.
Then you got the thing we went back to earlier. Maybe they're not actually. Do you think they are actually noticing? Do you think there are judgments being made?
Not consciously, no.
Right, maybe unconsciously. Right.
But don't forget, unconsciously we see far more than we do consciously.
Right.
Generally, the unconscious mind will say, "Nah, he's not going to be interested in that," and not bother telling it. I mean, the classic one for me is, "Can you feel your toe in your shoe?" You can now.
Now you thought about it. Yeah.
Now you've passed your attention to your foot in the shoe. Up to then, the unconscious mind could feel that, but didn't bother telling you about it because it thinks, "Nah, he won't be bothered about it."
We're going back to the magician diverting people's attention,
Exactly.
isn't it?
Yep.
Oh, very interesting. All right, we're going to have to skim, I'm afraid. I'd love to talk about all of this. But phobias. So we did talk earlier. We were saying things like xenophobia is taken as not liking foreigners, but is actually fear of.
Yes.
Where do phobias come from? Can you remember what you wrote about phobias?
No.
Okay. Should we move on?
Don't forget, I wrote a lot of this book I wrote 20 years ago.
I know, yeah. Here we go. Okay, we touched on this earlier. Games people play.
Yes. Eric Byrne,
yeah. Transactional analysis.
Yes.
Again, can you just give us roughly what it's about?
I mean, it's quite a complex process, but I never really got that far into it. One thing I did pick up is that Eric Byrne, around about the mid-70s, early 70s, I suppose, he was very much a Freudian when he studied, but he realised that didn't actually explain a lot of people's behaviours. And what he said, that internally we have, if you like, three parts. We've got an adult, we've got a parent, which is looking at things as we, you can't get the kids these days. The kids just don't care less. They're just look at the way they dress and look at what they listen to. I mean, really, honestly, what do you expect them to be able to do? And if there was a war, they wouldn't take part. This is all parental stuff, right? And people do that. Then there's the adult, which is what you and I are having, which is an adult-to-adult conversation. We're passing information to each other, we're picking it up, we're amplifying it, and we're passing it on. And then we've got the child which plays games, which I like to do, word games, making fun of, being sarcastic, saying things in a particular way which gives a slant on what you've said. That's game playing. And don't forget that the person you're communicating with has these three parts as well. Right? Now, if a parent is talking to somebody and the other person comes up and his parent comes out to play, then the conversation can go on. "Oh, I know what you mean. Yes, the kids these days, honesty, and so on." Right? You and I have an adult because we're both working in the adult mode. And if you're a child, you talk in such a way that the other person gets you. Sometimes people don't get me because I tend to not say what I mean. And I live with somebody who is very, very literal. And she doesn't get my sarcasm, and she doesn't get what I say is not what I mean, and so on. When you're communicating, I used to have a manager who would talk down to me. His parent would talk to my child. I would then try and talk to him as an adult to adult. That crosses the line. The diagonal top left to bottom right, parent to child, and the adult to adult is across the centre. I had great difficulty in understanding him. He used to get annoyed with me, and it wasn't until I read Transactional Analysis and I realised what's going on. And then from then on, I played the child to his parent. Not obviously, but yeah, David, I understand. Yes, I'm sorry. I can see that. In other words, I would be subservient, as a child often is.
Is there a mischievous element? Or
Sorry?
Is there a mischievous element to that or not?
No, not really.
Okay.
I mean, no, because that would annoy him.
Oh, I see.
Well, chances are it would anyway. And from then on, we got on perfectly well. Once I realised that the transaction that he was playing, that he was using, his parent to my child, he was my boss, and I think that was the role he wanted me to play. So, okay, I'll play that role. And from then on, we got on perfectly well.
Oh,
and I really learnt that whatever aspect of that personality is coming across to you, be it a parent, adult or child, it's much better if you do the same, if you play that role that is expected of you.
Can you change it during the transaction, or is that not a good idea, I think?
It depends how important it is to you.
So you're saying like maybe placating is better?
Yeah, that's right. Especially if he's your boss, because his opinion of you does matter.
I read that book and I was slightly put off because I don't want to think of the idea that. So it doesn't mean everyone's playing each other. It just means they're falling into roles.
They're falling into roles. They're not playing each other. Most people have no idea about this. But once I realised what was going on, or had an explanation for what was going on, because I mean, this is just the parent, adult, child is just fantasy. It's just imagination. Right. We're making it all up. Right. But some models, this is a model of human behaviour. Some models are useful, even if they're not true. Like I said, I'm not looking for the truth, I'm looking for what works.
Again, is this saying like salesmen might use NLP? Would they maybe use this if they knew about it?
Yes, if the person they're talking to comes across as childish, then it would pay them to play child. You can throw in facts, you can throw in detail, you can throw in a sales chat, but do it childishly, because that's what the other person expects.
It's that mirroring thing, isn't it?
Yes, it's the same. It's mirroring with words. And you use the same in NLP. You use the same words. What is it? You use different words to learn, to understand, and the same words to build rapport. You got my bit on communication.
I did, yeah.
6 ways of communicating.
I've got a lot here. Right, love. Oh. The most important and misunderstood word in the English language.
Yes.
Go on then.
Well, this might be a bit controversial.
Go on, I don't mind.
When I say to someone I love you, it means your will for you is my will for you, or my will for you is your will for you. In other words, I will, and if you love them, you will do all in your power, within reason, to help them achieve what they will for themselves, not what they want. People have a want for themselves in order to achieve a will. People will smoke, which isn't good. That's what they do in order to appear smart, because they have a will to appear smart in the social circle or whatever. So they will smoke in order to achieve that will. And I mean, a friend of mine used to take drugs. Now, she did that in order to help her mind rationalise the world, and that's not good. I wanted to help her to achieve what she wills for herself, which is a peace of mind and a development of her personality. But the way she was choosing to do it was through drugs, so I would never help her to smoke drugs, or smoke tobacco for that matter, but I would help her to become the person that she wanted to be. And you do this with your children. You may not like what they do, but you help them to achieve their will. Go to university or go to school or whatever.
On the subject of that, actually, you had an example in the book about, was it your mother used to shout to your sister?
Yes, that's right. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
To get ready for school. But then when she started working, she would ring her up and say, have you woken up yet or something?
Yes. My mother would call Joan when she was 9 years old. Come on, Joan, you've got to get up. You've got to go to school. And pester her till she went to school. And then when Joan got a job, mother would still call her and say, come on, Joan, it's time to get up, time to get up. And Joan at that point was 29, quite capable of getting herself up. And I said to my mother, do you really need to call? Well, she'll be late for work. I said, she won't be late for work that very often, because if she is, she'll either learn to do it or she'll get sacked. But that's not love. That was a need my mother had to be important to my sister, not to love her. But we interpret love in so many different ways. I mean, you can over-love somebody, you can over-nurture somebody, and in the end, they have to face the world at some point. So there's over-management.
So smothering and sheltering is too much love.
Oh, yes, well, no, it's not. It's too much behaviour from the person who's doing it. It's nothing to do with love. Because if you love that person, you want them to achieve what they will for themselves, not getting them out of bed. or covering the short term of that solves the problem of them getting to work on time, but they're not learning anything. They're not becoming self-dependent. They're not managing themselves. And when a person gets to a certain age, they have to learn. They should have learnt by that point to look after themselves. Because mother isn't going to be.
So it's love when they're a child, I suppose.
Yes, of
getting
course,
them ready for
because
school.
they are dependent upon you as a mother to look, or father to look after them. But once they get past a certain 15, 14, I think is about the age when they really should be able to do things themselves.
Yeah.
And with my children, I used to say to them, if you want some help and you can't do it, I'll be first in line. If you can do it yourself, I'm sorry, I'm not helping you.
Right, I see.
Because you can do it yourself. For me, that's loving them. And most of what we consider to be love is actually a self-interest behaviour.
Interesting.
Not love.
And then you've got the fear aspects as well. So if you have a child who wants to be an actor or an actress,
yes,
and that's obviously not a safe career, the parental instinct might be to steer them towards a career.
And that would not be good. Never try and get your children to be what you want them to be. They should be allowed to do what they want. And you can talk to them rationally. Of course, being an actor, brilliant, and if you can succeed, you'll make a lot of money, and it's fantastic. But the dropout rate amongst actors is really very, very high. And so rationalise it rather than doing everything for them.
So maybe the loving thing would be to present options.
Yes, absolutely.
If it doesn't work, you do this.
That's right, because children will move from one thing to another. They want to get a horse and do pony riding, which is fair enough if you can afford it. But after a period of time, they may decide, well, actually, it's a lovely riding, but I can't be bothered to clear its crap up. So, this isn't for me. And so children move from one thing to another until they find something that they like. And for me, it's just as important they find something they don't want to do as opposed to finding something that they do, because they've got to rule out certain things. But for parents to direct their child to do certain things, not a good idea. I know somebody who that happened to, and that was a disaster. It took the person about 10 years to realise that they didn't want to do what their parents wanted them to do, or study at university what their parents wanted them to study.
Yeah, the living out your dreams thing's terrible.
Not a good idea. No.
And parents got unfulfilled dreams.
Yes, not a good idea.
Yeah.
Guide, assist, help. Assist, don't insist.
Oh, okay. Assist, not insist. Yeah.
Yes.
Right, we're going to end this on a happy note by talking about happiness.
Yep.
You've actually got 5 reasons why people are unhappy. Can you remember them, or should I can read them?
Don't ask me to remember them.
Can I just quickly read them?
Yes, of course, if you can find them.
I will. So you've listed 5 reasons people are unhappy. Number 1, I have no right to happiness. Number 2, I don't deserve happiness.
Yep.
Number 3, I cannot be happy until. Number 4, I cannot be happy until I have permission.
Yep.
I cannot be happy in my present situation. Do you want to maybe take 1 or 2 of those just to finish off the
Pick
conversation?
the ones you want me to talk about. I'll tell you one important one.
Go on.
I can't be happy until.
Yeah.
Because the problem is we keep changing the until.
Right, I see.
I'll never be happy until I pass my 11 plus. Yeah, this isn't a conscious thing, right? It's unconscious. Or I can't be happy until I get myself a boyfriend, girlfriend. I can't be happy until I get married. I can't be happy until I have children. I can't be happy until my parents die and leave me some money so I can buy a better house. I can't be happy until I can learn. We all have a whole set of happiness untils. And that doesn't work because we keep changing the until.
So why are we not allowing ourselves to be happy? Are we putting it off somehow?
Yeah, well,
why do we do that?
Well, because the first one there was I can't be happy because I don't deserve it.
I don't deserve it, or I don't have no right to it.
Yeah.
So why do you think people think that?
Well, people think, because they've been told that they're stupid most of their lives, or that they're not living up to their parents' expectation, or they're not living up to God's expectation, depending upon the religious fervour of the family. And the other one is, give me the second one again.
I think it was I have no right. I have no right, and I don't deserve it.
Right,
the first
no right. You can see that one as the rest of the world. Look at the people in Africa; they're all dying and suffering, and they're starving to death. And what right have I got to be happy when I'm allowing that situation to continue? It's pretty arrogant, but lots of people have that. I have no right to happiness. But what most people don't get, happiness is a decision. You can decide to be happy or you can decide not to be. Most people don't consciously do this, of course not. But somewhere, if you don't believe you have a right to be happy, then you're not going to consciously decide happiness as a decision, to be happy. I got this about 20 years ago. It largely doesn't depend upon what you have, it's what you are. And once you accept yourself and love yourself, because you are unique, there's nobody's in competition to be you. So you are a perfect you. You may not do perfect things, but you are a perfect you. And as such, you can like yourself, you can love yourself, you can care about yourself. And if you love yourself, you realise that you have a right to be happy. Everybody's got a right to be happy, just some people don't take it up.
Yeah, there seems to be a societal stigma against someone having a fairly easy and comfortable life.
Yes.
You know, okay, life's never easy, but it's almost like it's seen as some cop-out. Now, I think struggle is good for people, because I think if you do have no struggle, you see this sometimes. Children of very rich families,
yes,
they just got complete comfort.
Yes.
When something happens, they can't cope with it.
No.
So struggle is good, but I don't know if stigma is the word. Like when you see someone who just seems to be coasting through life, do you just get? Not you, I'm saying. Just people just get jealous, or
Oh yes.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a huge amount of jealousy about millionaires or people who have big cars and so on.
Yeah, because again, there's a narrative.
Yes.
Saying, they don't have any hassles or anything.
Yeah, but they do.
Internally, they probably do.
A quote I came across, and don't ask me where it came from. Don't compare the inside of you with the outside of someone else.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You know all your problems, you know all your difficulties, you've worked on them a long time and you understand your difficulties. You see this person in a big flashy car and you assume that, their life must be wonderful. No, big flashy car people commit suicide.
Right, yeah.
They're down to their second oil well and they just don't know how their life is going to be. No, never compare the inside of you with the outside of someone else.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you actually became even a millionaire very young, you would get used to it so quickly that you wouldn't.
It becomes the normal.
Yeah, it becomes the normal, and then the niggles start again.
A long time ago, when my daughter was about 17, I suppose, I said a friend of hers was busy working as a bar person or in the local clothes shop, and I said, "Come on, don't you want to earn some money?" She said, "What for? My time is more important than any money I'm going to earn. I don't want the latest handbag, and I don't want the latest so and so."
Yeah.
So she never did get a separate job. She went to uni and is now doing very well, nicely financially. I'm not sure what's going on in her head, but certainly financially she's doing very nicely. But I thought that was a very enlightened attitude. What do I want to earn the money for? My time off to me and with friends is more important than the money I earn.
Yeah, especially if you're buying into sort of materialism.
Yes, and most young people do, because I don't know who the latest Joneses are. I mean, nowadays it was keeping up with the Joneses, but that's not a useful way to live. Within reason, happiness is a decision. It's very difficult to be happy in certain circumstances, but in the Western world, largely, if we are wise and we spend whatever little money we do have in a wise way and get rid of habits which actually are just wasting money, then it's easier to decide to be happy.
Yeah, there's a guy called Robert Greene. I'll just end with this on my side anyway. He said, your reality is the best thing you've got.
Yes.
And of course, if you take an example of, say, Gaza or something like that, that's a terrible reality, but it's better than, I don't know, constructing some other reality in your head. That was the point. Your present reality might not be great, but it's the best thing you've got in the sense of living to your reality is the best way to live.
Well, you don't forget you're creating your reality.
Yeah, or maybe circumstances might be a better word, but
yes, your circumstances. And if you don't like your circumstances, within reason you can change them, but there's a loss. You will lose certain things. If you change, don't forget, changing creates a loss, it also creates a gain.
Yes.
And if you change your circumstances, I've had enough of this, living in this country, it's going nowhere, I want to go to Spain, fine, you can go and live in Spain, well, only for 3 months at the moment, but but you will lose whatever it is you have here, your friends and your relatives and your parents and so on. So there's a price to pay for changing. But in the end, life is a choice. Generally, there is a choice, and you're rejecting that choice because you're going to lose too much if you take it. But you are still choosing what you're doing.
And there's the discomfort and the fear of change, as we said earlier. But I think confronting your fears is always a great thing. Fear is actually a very useful thing, in my opinion.
It could be a real motivation. I think I'm going to lose my job. I better work harder. And as such, you might get promoted or whatever. So no, there's nothing wrong with fear, within reason. As long as it's fear you can do something about. I mean, if you can change the circumstances which are creating that fear, then fear is a great motivator.
Yeah. And on that note, is there anything that you'd like to say to sum this up, or do you feel like we've summed it? Obviously, there's so much more in the book. I could only cherry pick because there's a hell of a lot of information and ideas in here.
I think the cherries didn't have a stone and they were quite tasty.
All right. Thank you very much for doing this. It's been good.
No problem. It's been a pleasure.
It'll go out in 2 parts, and I'll edit it nicely.
I mean, we always like talking about ourselves, don't we?
Yeah. All the times we talked in the meetup group, I thought it'd be nice just to get it down.
No.
And it'll be there forever now.
I have a lot of ideas.
Yes. And is your book actually available? Is there any link?
That one, yes, of course.
Yeah.
It's got an ISBN number.
Okay, so I'll put a link to it in the show notes. All right, thank you very much. And
thank you, and no, you're not on 10%.
No. And thanks to everyone for listening.